Hello and welcome to this first ever episode of Knobi Cooks. Today we are cooking cod with summer vegetables, a dish perfectly suited for hot days or a low carb diet. So let's get right to it. For this recipe you'll need some cod, some dried tomatoes, some pointed peppers, some garlic cloves, a couple of carrots, some zucchini and a couple of spices. In addition you'll need an onion, a large frying pan and some olive oil. I've already put some olive oil into this pan. So first of all let's dice the onion. I prefer the Gordon Ramsay method for dicing onions, but you can do however you like. The Gordon Ramsay method includes some vertical and some horizontal cuts, and also don't pay too much attention to the size of your dices. They don't have to be super fine for a tasty meal, and larger dices usually take way less work. Concerning the cod, I recommend you season your cod before frying. Also, if you have a lemon lying around or want to make your cod tastier, just put a teaspoon of lemon juice onto your cod and let it soak in for a while. Next up are our garlic cloves. We'll dice them just as fine or as rough as we like, as we did before with the onion. They'll be tasty either way. Don't forget to put some heat on your pan, so the pan will be ready for frying your vegetables. If you prefer less or more garlic, just add to it however you like. Take my recipes as a rough blueprint for what to include into your dishes, but be creative, add whatever you like. I like to exchange, for example, zucchini or the peppers with some fennel or some aubergine. They also work very well with this dish. When preparing carrots, I like to put them into the dish relatively early on, so they can soften up a little bit more, because otherwise they'll be quite crunchy and hard. If you prefer the texture, just add them on later on. For cutting your carrots, I recommend you do some lateral slices across them and afterwards just dice them up in the size you like them. Then put them in the pan after you have simmered your onions and your garlic for a little while, so they'll look a little glassy. A good rule of thumb for cooking is that you should rather stir the contents of your pan once too often than once too less. This just makes sure you don't burn your food while cooking and cutting, because I like to do that simultaneously. This way you can save a lot of time. You can cut the first ingredients, put them into the hot pan, stir the pan regularly, and while everything's cooking and frying, just keep cutting the next ingredients. Just like we'll be doing now. Next up is the zucchini. I like to halve them or quarter them afterwards. This ensures we get smaller dices. For cutting your zucchini, I also recommend some lateral slices, and afterwards just dice them up in whatever size you like. So you may recognize a pattern here. If you're cooking for yourself or your friends and your family, don't try to dice everything in the same size. The gesture of cooking for someone else will be much more important, and you'll make whoever you cook for very, very happy. And it's much more important that you don't over-season your food or burn it while cooking, so pay much more attention to that. Make sure you're not putting too many vegetables into your pan at once. Give the vegetables in your pan some time to cook. Otherwise, everything else will take longer. Adding too many things into your pan at once will take a lot of heat out of it, and your stove needs to reheat everything afterwards. Most of the time I start on a medium to medium-high setting on my stove. And once all the ingredients, or vegetables in this case, have lost some of their water, you can turn the heat up afterwards. And another good trick for cooking your food faster is just putting the lid on. When you put the lid onto your pan, everything inside will get steamed. So next up are our peppers. As we did before with the other vegetables, just cut laterally and you'll receive some nice strips. Afterwards, if you've cut some strips, you can just dice them up again in whatever size you like. Here I'm using pointed peppers just because I think they're easier to cut than bell peppers. But if you prefer bell peppers, you can just as well use them for this dish or any other dish I'm using pointed peppers in. If you ask me, another benefit of pointed peppers is that they are much easier to clean out than bell peppers. With the pointed peppers, we've now cut the last of our fresh vegetables. Next up, we'll turn our attention to the dried tomatoes. But before we do that, we first need to give our vegetables some love. Let's stir them for another round. As for the dried tomatoes, here too, cut them in bigger pieces if you like it that way. I prefer rougher pieces of dried tomato in this dish. As for the seasoning, I'm using some thyme, some basil, some oregano and some bell pepper powder. This is just for the extra dose of pepper in this dish. In addition to that, we'll need some salt and some regular black pepper. You can use pre-ground black pepper if you like, or grind it fresh like I do for my cooking videos. As for the herbs, if you've got some fresh ones at hand, use them. They just add a certain something to your dish. And if you don't, just use dried ones as I'm doing. They are also just as fine. As I've said in the intro, this is a perfect summer dish, or a dish when you're on a diet or low carb diet, depending on your nutrition style. If you've got your own garden, you can even use your own vegetables. I, for instance, like to grow my own zucchini in summer, so this is the perfect dish for using your own homegrown vegetables. The diverse mix of vegetables in this meal will ensure that you'll receive lots of vitamins, while also being low carb and low fat. However, the addition of the cod will also ensure you'll receive a healthy dose of proteins if you're looking for that. If you don't like cod, just replace it with salmon. And if you don't like fish in general, well, just replace the fish with some chicken breast. It will also be very, very tasty and still have enough protein to satisfy your needs. Cooking is all about being creative. Just add the ingredients you like, including spices, and subtract the ones you don't like from any dish I'm showing you in this channel. Since we are now taking care of our dried tomatoes, I just want to mention to you that usually the dried tomatoes I get are very salty. So if you're cooking any dish with dried tomatoes, be careful with adding salt to it. You may oversalt your dish. Something similar is true for fish from the sea. The fish usually is also salty on its own, so be careful with the salt when cooking fish. Be careful with that salt. It can be very hard to unsalt any dish you put too much salt into. And concerning the freshness of your ingredients, you don't always need fresh ingredients. The cod you're seeing in this video is frozen cod. I just thawed it before the video and then seasoned it to be ready for cooking. When you're using a stainless steel pan, make sure to use enough oil or lower the heat so the pan isn't too hot. This will ensure that you will not burn your ingredients and make them stick to the pan, so you'll have a mess to clean up afterwards. And even if something happens to burn in your stainless steel pan and get very sticky, in my experience, it is enough to just let the vegetable or meat juice soften everything up, and afterwards you can gently scrub with your spatula, and this will most often clean the pan by itself. So no scrubbing needed afterwards. Since there's not much space left in this pan, I'm once again putting on the lid to let everything steam. This ensures that the cod will get cooked thoroughly from all sides, because I don't have the space to turn it around very much. And that's basically it. Just let your cod steam until you think it's done, and then the meal will be ready to eat. So I've put everything on a small plate right next to the pan. You can see there are 2 slices of cod, some vegetables, and I garnished everything with some fresh basil leaves. Now isn't that looking great? And it's so healthy and tasty. Enjoy your meal, and I hope you liked this episode of Knobi Cooks. Tell me what you liked about it and what you didn't like about it, and leave a comment how you liked this dish. Goodbye and until next time.